quite enough. I was rushing a little bit at the last minute, but I just want to make sure I let everyone know, like, I want to make sure this is super informal, and that if you have any questions or comments or feedback, like I'm someone who always wants feedback, so don't hesitate to raise your hand, speak up, or do anything to get my attention to ask some questions. And then lastly, like as far as like mindset goes, you know, I just want to let everyone know, like, I'm by far not the most expert on mindset. There's probably more people or people with more experience here than even I have, but I'm just kind of giving you my perspective on what I've learned, things I've done. I have things out of order, but there's a couple like books, specifically this book here, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One, by Dr. Joe Dispenza. So this is probably like my #1 mindset book. And then like Chris said, we both joined the JDC Mindset Academy. Jason Dries is the coach of Brandon Turner. So I'm sure most of you guys are all familiar with Brandon Turner. So at the beginning of this year, I jumped in on the JDC group. It's been nothing but awesome and has kind of allowed me to like really shift my frame of mind and what I'm focused on and what I'm doing. So this first slide I have up here, right? What's your why? And I have it up there because I believe it doesn't start by knowing where you're going, but why you're going there, right? And I think a lot of us all have reasons like why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing, interested in real estate, whether it's for the time that it gives us, the money we can create, the relationships we can create, or the family we're trying to provide for. My why is pretty simple. And it's really because I have a passion of helping people and really wanting to have a huge impact on the world, right? And I truly believe I've kind of been given a bunch of gifts and resources that not everyone else has around the world. And so I want to make sure I use those resources to the best of my ability and create a huge amount of wealth, but really create that wealth, not just so I can go live on a yacht or anything, but so I can go give that back to other people, right? And so it's super important to be able to give back, right? One part of my why that's been, brought into perspective is understanding what's happening around the world, right? My dad's here, he's over there. Him and Kay went to Kenya, I think 5 years ago-ish, right? And so they went to Kenya, started a nonprofit called Into Kenya. But what I didn't go, full transparency, I will at some point, but like what that did for me was really give me a better perspective on like what's going on around the world, right? Like here in the US, we're super privileged, right? We have clean water. Most of us maybe drove here in a car. We have a roof over our heads. And these are a lot of things I used to take for granted without having their experience for going there. So before I jump into a bunch of mindset and stuff like that, I think we have to start with EQ, right? EQ, not IQ, your actual intelligence, but your emotional intelligence, right? And really we have to be aware of who we are in order to decide who we want to become, right? And so this is another book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, right? And it's really kind of been, my kind of guide of kind of like understanding emotional intelligence, right? And they've kind of broken it up into 4 quadrants of what emotional intelligence is, right? The first quadrant is self-awareness. And I'm just going to read right from the book, kind of cheat here, but it's your ability to accurately perceive your emotions in the moment and understand your tendencies in that situation, right? So really good example of self-awareness right now for me is, am I talking super fast? Am I pronunciating my words so everyone can hear me? One thing I did a quick presentation for my team before I came, and they're like, Jonathan, you say right after like every sentence, right? So I just did it right now. So I'm gonna try and be more aware of saying right and my ums and speaking slow so everyone can understand me and get, a lot of good stuff out of this. And then you have self-management. Self-management is what happens when you act or not act on those emotions you become aware of, right? So now my self-management is, am I slowly starting to say right less after my sentences while I'm up here? The next one is social awareness. So social awareness is your ability to accurately pick up emotions in other people and understand what's going on with them. And then lastly, we have relationship management, which is your ability to use your awareness of your emotions and those of others to manage interactions successfully. So when I think of self-management and social awareness, I think of like, being a real estate investor, I think of negotiation, right? And when we're talking with sellers on how we want to negotiate things and what their pain points might be, and not even pain points, but what solutions we can find to help them. And when we build that rapport with those sellers and understand what they're thinking and understand the words that we're saying and how they affect the outcome of that, that's when we can kind of really lean in and make those deals happen. Does that make sense for everyone? Social or emotional intelligence? Yes? Show of hands for at least everyone who's paying attention? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So I put up here some ideas that we can use to become more aware, right? Aware of our both our own awareness and awareness of others, right? Right. So my first thing is slow down, right? I think all of us go through life just 100 miles an hour. And so my first example on the left, you'll see a line at a shopping grocery store. And I think often our natural tendency is immediately, at least mine, is to go to the shortest line possible, right? And so I think like when you can realize that you're doing those things without consciously thinking about them, but then when next time you go to the store and think that you're going to the shortest line, maybe not even maybe still go to the shortest line because you're in a hurry, but even so, don't even be in a hurry, but just be aware of yourself making those decisions. The second one I have is on the right, coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. I think even if we looked out here in Chicago, you'll notice like maybe 1% of people come to an actual complete stop, and we're not consciously aware that we're just tapping the brake and going forward. So next time you're at a stop sign, come to a complete stop and be aware of yourself not stopping every time. And then the last one is probably my favorite, right? Brushing your teeth. How can you become more aware brushing your teeth? I think we all get up, super early, or maybe you get up super early or don't. But as soon as you get up early, you haven't had your coffee, you aren't thinking straight, and you grab your toothbrush immediately and start brushing, right? And most of us start brushing with our right hand or our dominant hand. I know myself. So now when I get up, I try and use my left hand to brush my teeth every morning. And that would also apply to eating, right? So if you sit down to eat, you start eating right away with your right hand. Try using your left hand to be aware of yourself eating with your left hand. All right, this quote by Robert Greene: become who you are by learning who you are. I love this quote, right? And it's one of these kind of quotes I have to read like 10 times for it to kind of even make any real sense. But I think until you understand who you are, you can't even become who you want to be, right? And that's kind of what this is saying. Learn who you are to know who you want to become. And then once you know who you are, then you can develop into that person that you want to become. Okay, so who am I? Or who was I? Who am I? And who do I want to be, right? So rewind maybe 5, 6, 10, 8 years ago, super self-absorbed, very cheap, right? I was a guy who, when we went out to the bars, Chris had 4 drinks and I had 1. I was expecting Chris to pay 20 and myself to pay 5, right? And so now I'm slowly I'm more frugal with myself, more willing to spend money when I'm out with other people. And now who do I want to be in that situation is that person who's picking up the tab right away, right? That's who I want to be. I want to be the guy who doesn't even think about the tab, and I'm just like, I'm paying for it right away. Some other example who I was, super judgmental, Mr. Know-it-all. I think if you asked any of my old superintendents when I used to work at Walsh, I was that young guy who knew everything about everything, when in reality, I knew nothing about nothing at the time. And I was definitely more of a taker back in the day. Now I've become more self-aware, more frugal, semi-open-minded. I've tried to shift from auto-judging people to auto-loving people. And I'm a giver of my time and my service, and hopefully more of my money in the future. And when I say here, not there, that just means I'm actually here presently thinking about what I'm doing. I'm not there thinking about something else or thinking about like the next thing I'm going to say. And then who do I want to be? I want to be radically open-minded and transparent. I want to love first right away. I want to go 5 miles an hour everywhere, slow down, think about what I'm doing, both figuratively and literally. And I want to be a giver of both my money, time, and my services. Okay, so how does the mind work? We can jump into mindset a little bit, right? How many of you, when you were growing up, were told you can do anything you put your mind to, right? I think most of us, our parents told us that. And for me, I didn't really realize it, how true that was. And so I started educating about mindset and learning what's really going on in here and how what goes on here affects what happens out here in real life. So kind of going back to 8th grade chemistry class, we're all made up of energy and matter. And if you break down energy and matter a little more, there's like atoms and molecules, and maybe even further, it's like electrons, protons, and neutrons, right? And basically, those atoms and energy, they attract, right? The law of attraction, which I had a video, but basically that law of attraction is going to say like attracts like, and what you focus on is what you get. And so once you're able to understand that what you focus on is what you get, you're able to create this person of who you actually want to be, right? So once you know who you are, then by understanding how the mind works, you're able to become who you really want to be. So after the video, I was going to ask if that makes sense to everyone, but I'll ask now, like, does that make sense? Like, we're all energy, we're all matter. And when you focus on things every day, you're able to be able to acquire those things. Okay, some examples of mindset. This is one of my other favorite kind of mindset books. It's called Mindset. Fixed versus growth mindset. And so what that is like, are you in a fixed mindset where you're stuck in one place and not growing and learning? Or are you open to growth and kind of looking at every opportunity as a way to learn and become a better person, be a better individual? And then my other one, on the right side, you'll see abundance versus scarcity, right? This is something I battle with on a regular basis, right? Do I have enough of what I need to move forward? Am I, me jumping into kind of the starting my own business type of thing? Am I going to have enough money for the business to keep going, right? How do I shift out of worrying about money and just knowing it's going to be there into that kind of certainty that it's going to happen? And along with like abundance and scarcity, right? I feel like that's more of like a team mentality. I always focus on us and we opposed to I and me. And especially in real estate, I think you'll find that there's a ton of investors that are so open to helping you. I know me, getting into real estate, as I grew my network, there was just so many people willing to help. And I think, that's exactly what I want to be able to do for other people as I'm growing myself, is be able to help those along who are not as far as I am. Okay, I couldn't go a whole presentation without putting in a slide about Michael Jordan, one of my all-time favorite players and the GOAT of all times. And I just love these ideas of these athletes and players who are at the peak performance, right? Their mindset is just like among none other. And so I put a few quotes in here from MJ. Always turn a negative situation into a positive. And when I think about that with Michael Jordan, I think about his father died, I think, in 1994. And he came back that next year. He went and played baseball, and he came back. And then he actually ended up winning the 4th championship on Father's Day, which was awesome because he was able to take that idea of death, right, which we all think is like morbid and bad, and take that and use it as fuel to go back and win that next championship. So I just love the idea of turning every negative into a positive. And then he also has this other quote where he took 9,000 shots that he missed, and lost 300 games, 26 times he took the game-winning shot and missed. And his quote is, I failed over and over and over again, and that's why I was able to succeed. And also, I've even tried to shift out of even using the word fail, right? I don't even use the word fail anymore. I try to just shift it to, this is an opportunity to learn. The same thing with can't, right? I hate using the word can't. I don't use the word can't. It's just like, how do I figure this out, right? Because I think there's always a way to figure it out if you really put your mind to it, which is what this is all about. Okay, so how does life work? Kind of jumping into the Jason Drees Mindset Academy here real quick. Most people choose a target, take action, and shift into alignment. So kind of like an easy analogy for this is you want to own 100 rentals, right? So you set that target and you start taking action, right? Well, I got to get one rental. I got to figure out how to get funding. And you slowly shift into that person who has 100 rentals. Through JDC, what I've come to learn is the first step is really getting into an aligned frame first, feeling what it looks like to be someone who has 100 rentals. I'm going to skip ahead real quick because it's kind of, the two slides kind of tie together. But so frame shifting is imagining yourself as that person who has 100 rentals, right? So if you close your eyes and what we do at JC is he says, can you imagine a version of yourself that has 100 rentals? Can you imagine what your team looks like when you have 100 rentals? Can you imagine what systems and processes you have set up when you have 100 rentals? And slowly, as you shift that mind into someone who has 100 rentals, you're going to know what those steps are to take because you've shifted into that mindset. And so after you're in that mindset or slowly shifting into it day by day, then you follow the process, right? That's that taking action part of it. And I have this note up here, right, that says, don't rush. And one of my favorite quotes that I wrote down from Jason was, rushing is resistant. Also one of those quotes where I just have to say it over and over again for it to actually make sense. But when we're rushing, I think a lot of the times we're not enjoying the process that it takes to get to where we want to go. And so I'm always thinking, whenever I'm rushing, it's like I'm resisting the process that it takes to get to where I want to go. So let's not rush. And then let life bring you the result. I think one of the things I liked about Jason too is like he took away like the time when you set a goal, right? So I want to do this by this time, but take that time away because you're almost limiting your mind by doing that. Because what if you could have got to that goal sooner had you set a bigger goal or not even put a limitation of time on? So some other ideas for frame shifting, right? Repeat after me. So this is something that feels super weird when you start. But basically what we'll do in our class, right, is we'll start and he'll say this. He'll say, I take, and he'll say, repeat after me. I take full ownership of my life and everything in it. I love starting with that because you're just taking full ownership. And then you can see the rest of the words on here. We don't have to do a full repeat after me with everyone here. I know it might make some people feel awkward, especially here in person. It's way easier to do when you're by yourself in front of your computer. But so those repeat after me, those really work. And then affirmations, I think of, was a book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, right? So I just think of it, he's like, I want to be a millionaire. So you wake up every day and you say, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. And eventually you become a millionaire because you figure out the process that it takes to become a millionaire. And the last one I have on there is meditation. Okay, so while you're shifting your mind into an aligned frame, Jason has this kind of 7 levels of mindset alignment. So first thing I always try and recognize is this is not something that happens overnight. This is something that takes time. And so just like anything when you do it for the first time, right? We don't know what we're doing. We fall down a bike, we get hurt, we get on it again and figure it out. And slowly, we gain a perspective that, okay, maybe at first you're like, oh, I can't figure out how to ride this bike, but I think I'm going to be able to, right? And so you're open to the idea of learning, but you're doubtful that's going to happen. And then eventually you're like, I'm definitely going to learn how to ride this bike. It's going to happen. And then finally you're just riding, right? You're not even thinking about how to ride a bike. You're just riding as fast as you can. And that's when you're in that active creation. I think of like people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson. Those guys are just in active creation at all times. Okay, so real quick, I kind of just wanted to go through my own kind of timeline of like mindset shift that I've had from kind of working my full W-2 job to kind of starting a couple businesses. And when I was growing up, what everyone around me was always telling me is you go to college, you get your degree, you get your W-2 job, you start investing in your 401k, and eventually at 65, maybe 61 and a half, if you're lucky, you retire and you live an awesome life at the end. And first of all, nothing wrong with that at all. But for me, it's just like I wanted something different, and I knew I was meant for something different. And so I worked for Walsh for the last 10 years of my life, roughly. I traveled all around the country from Denver to Austin to New Orleans to Dallas to Louisville to Oslo, Norway. And Norway was the first time I really kind of discovered real estate and bigger pockets, and that there was like a different avenue out there besides this whole W-2 world. So when I got back from Norway, and in March of 2019, that's when I actually ended up leaving Walsh and found Nest Egg. And Nest Egg was a prop tech company. I was all on board with them. I understand the vision, where they're going. And for Nest Egg, I was really kind of in the entrepreneur mindset, right? I wasn't the guy who found the business, but I was in the business and I was creating all these systems and processes. So not everyone has to be an entrepreneur, right? There's this thing called an intrapreneur. I think it's from the book, David Bet something. It's not coming to my mind. But anyways, he talks about being an entrepreneur, which is when you're working in the business and you're still creating, and you bought into the passion and the vision of the company. And so after I was at Nest Egg for a while, I'd actually had a 2-unit building and a vacant lot. And I'd gone through the process of finding a bunch of general contractors and getting bids. And then eventually I was like, well, I've got enough people in my network now to just build the house myself, or ourself, I would say, shift out of the mindset of I and me. And so we ended up getting our GC license, but at the time we had like no intention of making Quality Builders this big, massive company. We were just literally doing it because we could at that point. We had the subs, we had the people, it was going to be a little bit cheaper to do it that way. And so we started Quality Builders. It wasn't long after that, September 2020, when I ended up getting fired twice in 1 month from Nest Egg, which was a blessing, right? Like some people would do the opposite and be upset and whatnot, but me, like I was super grateful, and I'm super grateful from, I wouldn't be here now and understand what I know without Nest Egg and understanding technology, understanding how to set up businesses. And so it was just a total blessing for them to fire me, because it was, in my opinion, the way of the universe to push me to get into my own thing and be my own boss. And so that's, I guess, officially when I kind of became an entrepreneur, since I had no form of income anymore. And then since then, I started another marketing company and a brokerage as well, because I really wanted to be able to generate this kind of fully integrated ecosystem for real estate investors, where we can help find deals for you. We can help fund deals for you through our relationships with different lenders and whatnot. We can help you do the rehab, and then we can help you with the disposition if it's something like a flip. Is there any specific questions about transitioning from W-2 to entrepreneur, about financials or anything else? No? Anything online? No?
Did you have a good savings?
So yeah, I had a good savings, but I wasn't very cash liquid still, and I'm still not. I feel like that's the story of any developer or real estate investor, is like I always feel cash broke, which is definitely a scarcity mindset. I'm like, dang it, like I only have this much money left, and I still don't have a W-2 income. I've been super blessed. I've had a bunch of like friends and family who allowed me to help buy their house, right? So I'm an agent myself, obviously. And so I was able to make a little bit of side income doing that. But yeah, I had a decently high net worth, right? Almost near $1 million, but didn't have anywhere close to liquid cash and still don't. Anything else? Oh no. Did it get disconnected from Zoom or no?
No, you're still
Oh, it's still showing. Okay, well, it says connected here.
Oh, no, yeah, his screen shares stuff.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm interested in how many properties you own now.
So I only have two, right? I have two flats. One, but I bought a double lot originally right here in Bucktown. And then we developed a single family. And kind of during that time, I could have kept buying a bunch of properties, but I kind of shifted my mindset of instead of being the person who has, 20 rentals or units, if I could create businesses that were helping the people who had 20 rentals, like how much faster would I be able to grow long-term was just that mindset that if I can set up these businesses, it's going to be even, I'll be able to grow even 10x further. And so now I'm in the process of doing a 1031 exchange with that ground up single family. And I'm hoping to land about a 19 or 20 unit building. So then could say I have 20 units or something special, but that doesn't really mean much to me.
When you say you're creating businesses, like, is it a service that you're creating, like a real estate company? Or?
Yeah, so I have the Quality Builders is a general contracting company, right? And then I also have a real estate brokerage, right, that works specifically with investors as well. And then I also have a marketing company where we basically just source off market leads. Right now, we're actually just flipping any of those properties that we bring in, but eventually we want to be able to send all those out to people like you guys who are looking for deals.
Cool, thank you.
We've got some questions online. What are your goals for the next 5 years? And what is your end goal? And how long did it take to get your first unit, and what were the roadblocks?
Okay, I'm gonna skip the goals question because I'm probably gonna answer it here shortly.
Okay.
And the first one was how long did it take me to get my first unit? So when I was working for Walsh, I was moving around, right? There's that right again. I can't stop it. But so when I moved to Austin, I, got an apartment, didn't think twice about buying a house, didn't even know that was a thing. But when I moved from Austin to New Orleans to Dallas, I guess I thought it was sooner than that, but then finally moved to Louisville, I was just like, man, I just hate paying rent. Like, if I can just buy a place, I can not have to pay rent anymore. So it's just that simple that I was like, I just want to buy a house to buy a house. I actually bought it on auction.com. I remember my dad being super, super scared about it. And then he's the one who loved the property more than I did, to be honest. And so I don't know if there was like a time frame because I wasn't thinking about real estate at the time. I just knew I wanted to have a house for myself. So I flipped it there and I lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years. So I was able to avoid capital gains tax. And so I walked away with, I don't know, roughly between the equity I built because I paid it all down because I didn't know about leverage. And so I walked away from there with about like 120,000. I doubled down into the next building when I got back in Chicago. So, and I'm going to get to the goals question, but so the shoot for the moon, I can't even see this anymore. Even if you miss, you end in the stars, right? Kind of super generic quote by Les Brown, but it just resonates super well with me, with everything that we're doing at JDC, because I think, especially with me, for the longest time when I was setting goals, I was setting these like little goals that were small. And so I think if we can get into the mindset of just shooting for extreme goals, what it'll usually say is like, what's possible, what's known, what's unknown, and what's impossible. And then let's shoot for what's impossible. Because then even if you shoot for the impossible and you only get 20% of your goals, much like me in 2021. So my goals on there, you'll see, I fasted Sundays from 6 to 6, maybe 60% of the time. I ate today already. I quit smoking back and forth. Now I've quit, so it's not going to be a 2022 goal. 10 million in backlog for Quality Builders. We did 1 million. So not quite close to that one. 10 brokers at REIB. I have one broker. And mind you, like I hadn't even started the companies until the middle of 2020. So I had these ideas of starting companies and had these goals of like hiring people before I even had the companies set. And then I probably, we only did about 4 deals with Kimball Capital and whatnot. But so my 2022 goals, a lot of them are the same. And because, well, I guess because 10X for quality builders, right? So we want to go from 1 million to 10 million. Still want to read 2 books per month. I shifted the RE Investors brokerage goal from number of brokers to just sales volume, because it doesn't really matter to me how many people we have as long as we're generating a high volume. And I still have 10 to 12 deals a month, so there'll be or 12 deals for Kimball Capital. There'll be a deal a month.
I have a question from online.
Sure.
It says, do you need a special license for auctions? That's the first one. And then the second one is, what is the one area or resource you would suggest to start to begin learning more about mindset?
So for the auction, you don't need any license at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally clicked the button. It told me that I was the winner and was super surprised and didn't have any idea what to do next. So yeah, you don't have to have anything set in stone. And like, luckily, most of the times you have to have cash for those auctions. In that situation, I didn't. And I think my bid was like 113,000, and there was actually bids much higher, like I think 150 or 160,000 from investors like myself now. But because I was a homeowner, auction.com gives it to homeowners first over investors. So if you're looking to do like a house hack or something and find something on auction.com, maybe that's an option. And sometimes you can finance it. So I was able to finance it and only put 20% down. And then the other one was about my best place to educate for mindset.
Yeah.
I think, can you just ask me that one at the end and we'll go over more of that stuff? So yeah, I encourage everyone when you're setting your goals for 22, shoot for them possible. If you have a goal set, I think you should 10x it and make it higher. I know I read another book called Measure What Matters. It's about OKRs, like objective key results, right? And that's how Google, Intel, and some of these huge monster tech companies, how their business is structured to track KPIs and whatnot. And what I really liked about that is that they had the same line of thinking. Typically, they only even hit 75 to 80% of their goals because they know they're shooting for goals that are going to be extremely hard to meet. So you should be setting goals that are going to be impossible and then be happy when you're only hitting 50 to 60% of them. Because if you're hitting them 100% of your time, you're not setting them high enough. Okay, I'm going to end with gratitude. I think that's the easiest place to start with mindset, which was probably one of the questions. And it's really the first mindset shift that I suggest everyone start with. Probably like the biggest game changer for me was my little black gratitude book journal that seems kind of weird and lame to be writing in, but when you can like open your journal and look at what you were thinking about a year ago and what your thoughts were and what your worries were, and then what they are now, like it's game changing. So every day I wake up and write 5 things I'm grateful for. So today I had 1121 gratitudes, opportunity to present at Windy City REI, having a smooth presentation. Sometimes it's good to be grateful for things that haven't happened yet, knowing that it's going to happen. Grateful for books and eyes to read, brisk early mornings, and slowing down. Another cool thing about my journal that I wasn't planning on talking about, but was I actually did there's a book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Harold, which is what Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets did. I had messaged him on Instagram. He sent me his Vivid Vision, which I put in the back of my journal. But then when I went and wrote my Vivid Vision in Arizona, I wrote it in the back of this and then sent it to a VA and had her do it. So it was pretty cool that I still have this in here, and I still like message him every now and then. He'll message back to me. So that's all I really have as far as gratitude. Just start there, and when you realize that everything we have going on here, there's so many things to be grateful for that we take advantage of every day. The kids in Africa don't have clean drinking water and live in a hut. And, we're just so blessed to be here that when you can start with simple little things, it makes all these obstacles and learning opportunities way less significant and so much easier to navigate. Lastly, I'll answer that other question, and I just left some books that I think are awesome for mindset and some of my top leadership books. So the other question was about like best place to learn about mindset. I'd say start with like reading, right? Educating. So all these books right here, start with Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Super kind of dry book, to be honest, but man, once you can kind of dive in and go into it, you really start understanding what's happening. Signing up for something super simple with like Jason DeRees, right? He has like a $20 thing where you can sign up and just start with it. And I think even now, like it's way cheaper than it was before when you signed up. I think I signed up and now I'm a lifetime member, but I paid $5,000 when I signed up and now it's like $200 a quarter. So I think it's a super small investment, $200 a quarter to really grow and expand your mindset. Anything else?
We do have some questions online, but we had one thing that we needed to do really quick.
Yes. So we can put all of the Q&A for the time being. And then, first off, everybody give it up for Jonathan over here. Amazing presentation. We're going to put a pause on the Q&A for the time being because we do want to make sure that we leave some time for Kirk Ortiz to come on up. Kirk Ortiz, he is a Cook County Sheriff candidate, and he has to leave at 3 o'clock. So we wanted to make sure that we come up over here and have him share some stuff with us before he takes off. So everybody give it up for Kirk here real quick.
Good, thank you. Just clip it on, huh?
Yeah, just put that on.
John, you great up here.
Thank you.
Great words of inspiration. So that's awesome. You're a great speaker, and you're providing so much feedback. All right, we're right here. Yeah. All right. So good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for having me out here today. I'm going to take just a couple minutes of your time real quick. It's really important that we get the message out there of what a sheriff consists of to the people of Cook County, correct? So everybody has properties here. When you think about the sheriff, what do you guys think about?
Getting in trouble.
Tickets, getting in trouble, to jail, right? And that's only the small portion of what a sheriff's office consists of. When the sheriff was created to represent the people and to protect the people's rights under the Constitution. That's what the sheriff is about. And so when you look at laws and you look at rights, you look at tenant rights, tenants has rights, but you guys as property owners, you guys has rights as well. And it's not fair that your rights get violated when tenants refuse to pay, right? Now you got to dig in your pockets, and now you got to pay the rent to pay the mortgage for you and get deemed. It's not fair that there's nobody out there protecting your rights. When you go through eviction, it takes a long time in Cook County to get that done. One of the reasons why that's happening is because the current sheriff pushes that off. What he does is say, you guys just go straight to the courts. What a lot of people may not know is that it's actually the sheriff's responsibilities to make that judgment. So versus going straight to the courts, you guys should be able to present your case to your sheriff because your rights are being violated and his job is to protect your rights. So you should be able to present that case to the sheriff, and then the sheriff could say, hey, I'm going to send my deputies out there and we're going to go ahead and proceed with these evictions. And if the sheriff feels like there's not enough evidence to support your cause, then the sheriff could say, hey, well, you know what? You got to go to the courts, go present your case before a judge. You get to fight your case, the tenants get to fight their case, and then whatever the judge decides will reinforce it. And so what I'm going to do, what this campaign is about, it's about having equality across the board with everybody. It's about fairness. It's about protecting the people's rights. It's not about just policing. The sheriff's office is not about just policing. And for way too long, people has forgotten what the sheriff consists of and what the responsibility of a sheriff is. And so I'm out here today and I'm going to be pushing this out. One thing I want everybody to understand, I want everybody to take this home with them. Your voice matters. Your voice is important and your voice should be heard. And it's the sheriff's responsibility to hear that voice and to protect your rights under the Constitution. And that's what I'm out here doing today. I want to go out there and start listening to the people and protecting your rights under the Constitution, not about just policing, but about protecting your rights. And part of your rights here as property owners, you have rights, not just the tenants, but you have rights. And if people are abusing the tenant rights and not paying rent like they're supposed to, now you have somebody to turn to. You don't have to go to the court and wait a 1.5 year, 2 year process. Now you got somebody to turn to where you can present your case. The sheriff's office is the only office that's legally allowed to evict somebody. It's not the judge. The judge just hears what you have to say and then passes it back down to the sheriff. But it's the sheriff's responsibility because he's protecting your rights that could legally evict somebody out. So follow me on Facebook media, Kirk Ortiz. I got a website, Kirk for Cook County Sheriff. I need your support. I need your help. I need your faith. I need your belief. You can start off. I do Facebook Live once a week. You guys can follow me on Facebook. I will be answering questions once a week, whatever your concerns are. Most importantly, I want everybody to message me your concerns and your thoughts, because like I said earlier, your voice matters and I want to hear it. And I want to be able to take what you have to say and push it back out there. Does anybody have any questions? I saw a hand raised real quick. Go ahead, brother.
Me?
Yep.
When is the election?
The election is going to be June 28th for 2022. So it's around the corner. Yes, sir.
Right now, the current sheriff, I know, is doing a lot of work trying to get the overflood of Cook County Jail and do more help with people that need mental assistance. One of the suggestions was to open up Elgin and put state money into Elgin. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Mental health issues is increasing. It's highly increasing. It gets ignored a lot. There should be no reason why people with mental health issues or even people with drug abuse, they're victims, right? They're victims, they need assistance, and throwing them in a jail setting is not the assistance they need. The jail setting was created as a corrective setting. And
You wouldn't be in favor of reopening Elgin completely?
I will be in favor of having something open that would be able to assist people that needs assistance. That's what I would be in favor of. Having something open that's going to assist the people that needs assistance, not throwing them in a jail setting where there's no corrective actions, there's no assistance, there's no medical doctors, there's nobody there to really assist them.
No opportunity for second chance.
No opportunity for second chance. And the whole purpose of a jail setting is to have corrective actions. It's not about locking somebody up, throwing away the key, and then that's it. Everybody who's charged is an alleged charge. They're pretrial detainees. They're not convicted. We don't know what the issue is. And as a sheriff, the sheriff is not the judge of that. The sheriff is supposed to help everybody, every single person out there. It doesn't matter if you're a former criminal, if you're a pretrial detainee, doesn't matter where you stand. If you reside in Cook County, it's the sheriff's responsibility to represent you to your fullest and protect your rights. Yes, sir.
Did you say Kirk Ortiz?
Kirk as in Captain Kirk, K-I-R-K.
So I have a question about this. So I've been in the real estate business for a number of years, and my experience has always been you go to the court first, the judge signs the order, then we go down to the sheriff to sign to pay to have the eviction. Did I hear you say that we should be able to go directly to the sheriff's office to have the eviction started, the order signed off on, and the eviction done, all done at the sheriff's office?
Correct.
Why, 30, 50 years I've been in this business, I've never seen that happen.
People don't want to take responsibility for actions, right? Nobody wants to be appointed the bad person. So it's easier to say, I'm just going to push this off on somebody else, let them make the decision, and then I could continue on looking like a good person. Well, this responsibility, this role as a sheriff, you're supposed to be able to look at everybody equally and represent everybody equally. And sometimes you got to make hard decisions. Evictions fall under that core category of making hard decisions. So it's easier for somebody who's elected in that position to say, hey, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to pass it on. But in reality, The sheriff is the person you're supposed to be able to communicate with and voice your opinion, voice your rights, and say, this is what's going on, I need assistance. And if the sheriff can't make a decision, that's when it should go to the courts.
You need an attorney to approach the sheriff?
You do not need an attorney to approach the sheriff.
That's probably part of the problem. Well, the attorneys want you to believe that you have to use them, which if you go to court without an attorney, you're a fool.
Exactly.
So
The sheriff represents the people. You don't need an attorney, you know.
When did it switch?
What you mean?
Well, was there ever a time that you could just go directly to the sheriff?
Yeah, there's other counties that you actually go to the sheriff for eviction.
When did it switch in Cook County?
I want to say it's been common practice in Cook County for a very long time. But there's other counties, especially in LA, you don't have to go to the courts. You could go to the sheriff to have that certain situation, whatever it is, resolved by the sheriff.
it's probably set up when the sheriff was set up, the county was incorporated.
I'm sorry, what's that?
It's probably since the county's been incorporated, it's probably been on the books.
Could have been. I know Cook County operates differently than other counties, right?
It's an understatement.
You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, there's 102 counties in Illinois, and Cook County is not liked amongst 101 counties, right? So that's pretty much the whole Sheriff Association. And, you know, we're going to change all that. We're going to bring a coalition of everybody together again. We're going to patch that up. You know, it's sad the way how everything's been operating, and, you know, it's been spiraling downhill. But, you know, now is the time that we can make an actual difference. You know, changes has been made time and time and time again with every election. But how many times you have somebody that not only had a change, but actually made a difference? You know, the sheriff's office is a critical role in a lot of people's lives in Cook County. It's a very critical role. The sheriff was created to represent the people under the Constitution. That's what the sheriff was created. It wasn't created about policing or ticketing. It was created to listen to what you have to say and then represent what you have to say. You know, and I'm trying to bring that back. I'm trying to bring it back. If you remember old Western movies, back in the day, sheriffs were what? They were your best friends. They protected the county, they protected the people, they represented the people. If you had an issue, if you remember us in movies, if you have an issue, you went to the sheriff, and then the sheriff was able to listen to what you had to say, and then they handle it. You know, that's what we need to bring back. We need to bring back what matters. And what matters is your rights. What matters is your voice. That's what matters. And we got to bring that back. And it's going to take all of us together to make that difference, because we're going to make that difference together. All the way in the back.
That's what I understand. So let's say, for example, if it's just, you know, part of the process, and owners go to court with their attorney, and then the attorney comes in, so we get one. They push it off on the owner, then goes straight to the sheriff, even though it's already been brought to court, and say, let's get an eviction process.
No, what you should have done was brought it to the sheriff first.
Correct. But in the section where they've already brought in the scenario, they've already brought it to court, and now they're being pushed off as the process. Can they then go override it, even though it's been brought to court, go straight to the sheriff and say, you know, can we get an override it here?
So you're saying if you went to the courts first and then try to bring it back to the sheriff for an override? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
In all essence?
The court didn't say no, but the tenant, you know, they're playing the game, they're just pushing it up and say, oh, you know, can we record it, or we want continuance. So now, once it's already brought to court, is there like, is that a boundary that you can't go over and now it's the sheriff, or?
So it's a gray area, but what can happen is that the sheriff could take it up amongst the judge. So let's say your scenario is you went to court, the judge didn't decide with you, and now you went to the sheriff. Now the sheriff, as he's representing you, the sheriff can't go back to the judge and say, hey, Your Honor, let's talk about this. I need to protect the rights of my people, and I'm noticing that this individual right as a property owner is being violated. And then that'd be a discussion between the sheriff and the judge at that time.
So in essence, are you saying you'd be opening up kind of something before going to the sheriff, you'd be opening up an office that the sheriff's office would take care of, somebody would be in there making those decisions?
Absolutely. The sheriff's office should have open door policies where the people in Cook County, in all of Cook County, there's approximately 7 million people in Cook County. The sheriff's office should have doors, they should have hotlines, they should have regional means where the people can voice themselves to the sheriff. Obviously, there's going to be some sort of process in it, but that needs to be out there. That needs to be out there already. All right. Thank you so much for having me here today. Please follow me on social media. Please continue asking your questions. Everybody's questions is important. I appreciate your feedback. In order for us to make the difference, I need you guys to voice your opinions. I need you guys to continue asking questions. I need you guys to keep sending me your concerns and your suggestions because we're going to do it together. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and shift our mindsets back to mindset. And we're going to open up for a little bit of Q&A for anybody else who has some questions that they'd like Jonathan to answer. So we're going to have him bring back up.
There is a question online. It says, I'm currently renting and want to become a first-time homeowner with the intent to turn into a rental. Do you recommend a single family or multi?
I think I would recommend a multi, just because you're going to get to go where you're going faster. Probably specifically a 2 to 4 unit with a low down payment loan, maybe 3.5% FHA. Or there's a couple other banks that I have good relationships with that have I think a 5 or 10% down for 2 to 4 units.
Any other questions, you guys?
One question here.
There's a lot of things I see people wanting to rent or buy a house. They have those signs on. Would you recommend?
Rent, for sale by owner? Is that what you're?
Well, there's rent with the option to buy.
Oh yeah, rent to own. Yeah, it's a really cool strategy. There's a guy named Bill something who has like a meetup on the far northwest side, and he has like 300 units all rent to own. Most people actually never end up owning them. I think it's like 1% or something like that. So it's actually a pretty good strategy. I'll just say there's a lot more systems you kind of have to have in place and different legal contracts you have to set up to do the rent to own strategy.
It almost sounds like the Green Bay Packers where you buy a share of stock for $300 but have no rights to get no gains.
Anything else?
How do you overcome limiting beliefs?
That's a good question. Well, first, I think you have to ask yourself, what is limiting about your belief, right? Like, what would be an example of something you have a limited belief on?
Like imposter syndrome,
Like-
stuff like that.
Yeah, like imposter syndrome, like belief that I can't
I don't
achieve
belong.
what I truly want because I don't belong here. So there's something I'm missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it first starts with like educating yourself on like who you want to be and what you want to do, right? And then I think it's surrounding yourself with people who want to do the same thing, right? And then you're not even an imposter anymore. You're just around a bunch of people who want to do the same thing, right? And then I think you just have to understand, get in that mindset of the person you want to be, and know that, I mean, you always are who you are, but you have to be able to shift into who you want to become.
I love that. Well, thank you.
We have one more question here online. Any specific neighborhoods in Chicago you have your eye on for best investment properties?
It's an open-ended question, I would say, because Chicago is massive, but I'll throw out a couple places that I like. As far as like cash flow markets, I really like Berwyn and Cicero. That's where I'm looking right now for our 1031 exchange. I like Bronzeville, Washington Park, Woodlawn, also for cash flow, obviously. I also love more on the appreciation side, anything along the blue line, up further northwest for people just getting into it, Avondale, West Irving Park, Hermosa would be another good one, Portage Park, and then kind of down by the Green Line, I think, is Bronzeville, which I love, and then kind of like that Bridgeport area. I think the pink line runs down there. So anywhere where there's an L is somewhere I always love, just because there's always going to be people riding at trains and needing to rent in those areas.
Okay. One question here is kind of in regards, like more directed at like quality builders. And the question was, how worried are you at all about supply chain issues for new builds or PMs?
Well, we just finished our new build, so I'm not as worried anymore. But I'd say like the biggest one is lumber, right? Everyone knows, I think lumber skyrocketed. It's kind of dropped back down again. I think it's leveling out. And I don't think it's going to ever go back to where it was. And I think that's due to inflation. I think because we pumped so much money into the economy that everything is going to continue to climb at a pretty exponential rate. So I think supply chain in itself is going to get back to normal. I think everything material-wise is just going to continue to rise, and it's going to be harder and harder to become a real estate investor. So if you're trying to get into the game, do it now and don't wait.
Would you recommend investing in the Sycamore area?
That's very far northwest, but I'd say if you're in the area and have a competitive advantage, it's probably a great place to invest. I mean, truly, I think you can invest anywhere and you'll make money if you know what you're doing. And if you surround yourself with a good team, or not even if you know what you're doing, but if you surround yourself with a good team who knows what they're doing in the area, right? I think real estate investors make money doing anything, whether it's industrial, whether it's commercial, whether it's just, residential. I think someone is making money at everything. And that's even just outside of real estate, right? No matter what you're doing, someone is doing that and making money. So I just always encourage everyone to find that passion in them and do that and figure out how to make money doing that. Because then when you wake up every morning, it's going to make it so much better and easier to get up super early like I do.
Any other questions, guys?
All right. Give it up one more time for Jonathan.